So hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we'll be learning how to build an increment and decrement operator. So I have the HTML and the JS file. Now we just have to do a script source to connect the JS file. So you'll say index.js and now it will work fine. As here I have opened this web page with live server. So first we will define button, that is first we will define the increment and then the decrement button. Okay, so we have to create two buttons and give something like a class here, and we'll give a class of, let's see, button BTN. Okay, that sounds great. And we'll create one more button and we'll say here, give it a class. Okay, so we have given a class, it's BTN2. Now we have to create a p tag and we'll give it 0 for initializing 0. So that's why 0 will run. So 0. So if I control S and save, here you can see that I have these two buttons in which it will be saying increment, and here it will be saying decrement. So now you can see your increment and the decrement button. So when I click the increment button, this value should change, like say the 0. So when I increment, it should say 1, it should say okay. And when I decrement, the value which is here, that is 0, have to decrement, so it will be minus. So it is very simple. What you have to do is first index.js file is connected to it, keep it in mind. Now first we have to give here, let's say we'll take it. So first I will say count. So first I will initialize count. That count is 0. As it is 0, we have to start from 0, and if incrementing, then 1 2 3, decrementing, then again 3 to 1, and minus 1 minus 2 minus 3. So first let's let count is equal to 0. Then we'll create a function with function keyword and we'll say increment. Okay, increment, as you know, say increment, the name of the function, parenthesis and the curly braces, and after that what we will say is we will first, that as we click here, the count should increase. That means the count is 0. Now the count should increase whenever I click to +1. And here, now this is where we have to click and the count will increase. So here I will give an onClick of function in which the function name, this function. So when you click the button, this function should run. So I will say increment function. That is increment. If I console log it, and let's say if I console log here to check if it is working, hello, inspect here, and I have to make it down. So okay, now if console and increment, you have 1. If you increment, you have 2. If you increment, you have 3. Now the console is working perfectly. Now what I have to do here is I will make sure that I don't want to print in console, but I want to print it here. The value should change here. So you have the B tag in 0. So what I will do is I will give an ID of, let's say I will give an ID of what you can say, uh, number. Okay, I will give an ID of number. My naming convention is not good, and here I will say that numbers. I will say document dot get element by ID. That means get that element, get this element by its ID, and the ID is number. And dot inner HTML means this part, this full HTML part should change, and this should change in conditions of count. So you have declared count, so here we'll say count, and now you can do a save, and if I say increment, this should be changed to 1. Increment, 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 decrement. Now I have to decrement it, so I will create another function and I will say decrement and give it whatever name, but I will say decrement. And now here the count is 5, so whatever the count is, we have to decrease it by 1 when we hit the decrement button. So we'll say count, whatever the count it is now, count it to minus of 1, and then the same part. Okay, this is the same. Now if we say document dot get element by ID, that is the number ID, and I'll say dot inner HTML notation. Inner HTML is equal to, we'll say count, and if I control F save, now the 0. Okay, because I have control S, so it will be initialized to 0 as we have initialized it to 0. So now if I decrement, it says what? Okay, yeah, I have not put here on click only. How else to work? Okay, so on click function, when we click the button, this function should work. So on click, what on? Oh, it's not on clicked. Okay, on click, and we'll say decrement function should work when we click this button. Now if I control S save, and we'll say decrement, now it's minus 1, decrement minus 1, increment minus 1, increment is 0, increment plus 1, increment plus 2, increment plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So this was the increment and decrement operator with basic JavaScript instructions. That is, we have used function, then we have used a get element by ID, the DOM part, some DOM part, which is document how to get an element by ID and how to change in the HTML something. So this was how to build an increment and decrement operator. If you like the video, consider liking and also subscribing